لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله.
أما بعد وأما الآن. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you for being present for those who are here and those who are online. Barakallahu feekum for being present. Inshallah, the intention for this workshop, we'll try to keep it short. I know we have a majlis dinner, and then we will proceed to the majlis, inshallah. So thank you for your patience. The topic upon the recommendation to some of the friends and students was to speak more about the heart. So the verities of the heart, or just about the heart. And as it concerns spiritual wayfaring, as it concerns Sayyid was suluk, the journey of the soul and spiritual wayfaring. And in particular, then after that is discussed to some extent, then in particular how it pertains to the tariqah, to a formal, kind of a formal practice or a formal initiatic connection to a particular spiritual school of tariqah and a methodology. So we'll try to cover all these. This may end up being a part one. And so we might do a part two. I don't think there will be a part three, but that's possible because I like threes. So so that may end up happening, but it may not. So let's see what happens. This is didactic and also just from the hal. Maybe if you could bring those books that I had, out there, if you don't mind, the 3 books or the 4 books. That will be helpful. Since this will be a didactic, but also experiential. What we'll start with is, a guided meditation, which could be entitled "Discovering Our Centers." Okay, that there's multiple centers. Thank you, Sidi. So there's multiple centers of the human being, and many more than I will be pointing out. And so, but what I will point out will be sufficient. This meditation exercise can be expanded to include all of those, centers. So don't worry if you feel I skipped one, something like that. I'd be interested in hearing from you all in regards to these things. So here's what we're going to do. For those who may have difficulty standing up and then sitting back down, we're only going to stand up once, and then we're going to sit back down, and then we'll remain seated. So if you're able to do that, please follow us. If you cannot, if that is difficult on you, then I would recommend that you just stay seated, inshallah. All right. So in this guided meditation, we will stand and align our breath with the fullness of the bodily posture. We'll be present and consciously align ourselves with the whole body. Then I will give instructions on certain movements, and then we'll sit back down, giving pointers and instructions on what to do at each point of this exercise, inshallah. There is a rhyme and reason to the exercise, and it is related to the topic, inshallah. So I'm calling this guided meditation discovering the centers of your human beingness. Right? Just made that up. Right. All right, so just take a moment to gather yourselves now, inshallah. And when we mean just take a moment to gather yourself, is just to recognize your stillness, just to notice it in a relaxed way, and gather consciously, but in a relaxed way, your sense of attention into your present moment with yourself. Bismillah. This portion can be called the labbaik portion of the meditations I teach. Labbaik means I am here. I am present. Just simply feel and be present in a relaxed way, not in a focused way, in a relaxed way, relaxed and open way. Feel free to use your breath if it arises to do so. Bismillah. Feel free to have your eyes, have them closed or open. Either or is fine. Whichever is easier for you to be and to remain in a sense of gatheredness, Jama. All right, stand up. Bismillah. Am I seen on the other camera?
Yeah.
So remember, we're going to stay present and gathered, and we're going to experience or sense your breath, your breathing in the fullness of the body. So just take a moment to have your feet in a sense of gatheredness and sense this more than analyzing this, right? Keep your feet apart in a manner that feels comfortable enough for you to be relaxed and present yet relaxed. For most of you, that will be shoulder width apart. I mean, it may not be the case. It can be further or more in than that, especially for women, however you feel. Keep your knees slightly bent to make sure they are not buckled or locked in, slightly bent. As you breathe and bring awareness to the breath in your whole body, chin may naturally slightly be relaxed and decline slightly inwards. Shoulders relaxed. Stay present like this. Spine straight. With each breath, in and out breath. In breath, spine straight. And the out breath, relaxing or sinking into the straightness of the spine. With the shoulders becoming more relaxed and the chin slightly more relaxed and down. This is actually your natural skeletal posture. Just verify by your direct experience that your posture is actually entirely natural in this. And in this posture, every part of you is relaxing, hanging on itself and just simply relaxing. If it feels uncomfortable, it's probably because you've never stood like this. You've stood in tension unconsciously. Take a moment to just simply notice how the body feels. Perhaps the flow of any energy you may feel, the flow of your breath, the tingling in your hands, the slight fatigue in the lower back or the knees. Simply notice how you feel. And now we will begin an exaggerated awareness of the breath in the fullness of the body. Follow my lead. In breath, peak, out breath. In breath, hold at the peak. In breath, and out breath. Hold at the bottom, the out breath. In breath, Feel free to spread the feet a little bit more as you do this to get comfortable. Out breath. In breath. Out breath. And feel free to move your head if you'd like you're looking down. In breath, coming up, and then looking up if you'd like. Out breath. Make sure you sense that you're breathing with the whole body, even with your feet and your knees and legs. Feel free to slow down your movement. And if it begins hurting, then just feel free to shake off that limb. Just relax. Feel free to exaggerate your breath or simply breathe through the nose in breath and out breath from the mouth if you'd like, or from the nose. Now, if you'd like, take a step back and with your left foot forward, just move forward and cradle back and forth. Imagine you're somewhat pushing a cart without using your arms, only the movement of the back and forth. But so we're not pushing, we're not pulling, we're just moving. Imagining we're gently touching or pushing a cart. Just notice how this feels. In breath when you come back, out breath forward. Take your time. Now you may change your feet. I'm changing to the right foot forward. And your back foot, the balls of the toes stay, but the heel can come up and should come up. And then when you move back, you rock back, the heels on the ground, toes up. Take your time to find balance. You shouldn't be shaking. But it shouldn't be too fast either. In breath, as you come out, the expansion of the chest. As you come back, out breath, contraction, flowing forward. And now come back to the center. Posture can be slightly widened in terms of the gait for relaxation. As if you're praying Hanafi style. The left hand underneath on the belly button, right hand over for the men. I encourage the women to do the same, although they pray up here. Keep down here for a specific reason. Breathe in and out here. Remember, in breath, straighten your back and make sure the knees are slightly bent. Out breath, relax your spine while it's straight and relax the shoulders and chin. And bring the breath and your awareness to the belly as you're touching it. free to step back and come in back into the sitting position. You may keep your hands near your belly or on your knees. Bismillah. Or however you wish, clasped. Simply in a relaxed and open way, notice how you're feeling. Notice how relaxed you are as compared to when you started. Become aware of your awareness. And notice how you do this when you do it, when you become aware of your awareness, that you sense it around your forehead. With each and every breath, allow your awareness to gently sink into your chest and then into your belly, and simply rest it there. Please use the breath in this process. As your body has relaxed into stillness. When you feel your awareness in the belly, feel free to bring your hands near your belly if you'd like. If you'd like, you can place your hands on the belly or just under in a cradle. In this position with the awareness of the belly and breathing from the belly, sensing from the belly in a gentle way, I prefer to keep my two thumbs touching, connecting. As you relax into this posture and into this breathing and into this sensing from the belly and into this awareness, we have completed the Labbaik gate of the Muhasaba and Muraqaba. And we've cycled very subtly through the Muraqaba Maryami, the Muraqaba Muhammadi, forehead, being aware of being aware, the Muraqaba Usawi, and the sensing comes to the chest and is sinking in, and then the Muraqaba Maryami, in the gut, the belly, the sacred womb. All of this is part of the Labbaik gate of contemplation, meditation, whether it's a Muhasaba mode or a Muraqaba mode. Here inwardly, you are existentially saying now, Labbaik. I am here, I am present. Allahumma labbaik. Oh God, I am present, I am here. Allah, I am here. Allahumma labbaik. You will notice that the belly, or the bottom of the belly, is the exact center of your body, especially when you were standing, although I did not mention it then. If you imagine yourself standing again, that is your center of the body. Now, as you sit You are sensing that center. But as you sit in this posture, you also recognize it doesn't feel like your center entirely. Only when standing does it feel more like your center. In a relaxed way, allow your awareness to begin feeling a more subtle center. Feel free to use the support of the breath. Bismillah. With each and every breath, although perhaps the sensing of your belly is still present, it has expanded its awareness and its sensing to something a bit more higher on you and more now in your conscious bodily center that is being experienced, which is just above the gut and at the bottom of the chest, the solar plexus, sometimes called the apex of the heart. Right here is where you may be sensing your actual center now in this position. This sensing is both a physical sensing, a mental sensing, mindful sensing, and a subtle sensing. It is an invitation to connect with the spiritual heart, the more subtle center of your being, of your human beingness. Stay here for a while in a relaxed and open way. Bismillah. Notice how you feel your belly and your breathing, but also your chest expanding a bit as you expand and contract back to this subtle center that includes your belly and the bottom of your chest. Bismillah. It is here that we experience Allahu Hadiri. Allah is present with me. Allah is present. With the sensation that you have discovered, let us very gently, with the alignment of the breath, invoke the supreme name, Allah. And all of you are welcome at this moment to do this. Bismillah. Allah. As you invoke the supreme name and connect it with the subtle sensing, there should be a resonance of the Dhikr here. In your contemplation of Allahu Hadiri, God is present. Invoke again with the resonance. Allah. Try to feel the resonance of the divine presence in the invocation in silence, connected to the same region. Bismillah, with each in-breath and out-breath. In this field of presence, of the divine presence, to begin to look and gaze upon your heart that you have discovered with your imaginal perception, your imaginal gazing upon your heart, which is subtly somehow located in this region, but also beyond that region, in subtleness. Bismillah. If anything arises from the heart or around the heart, just simply notice it in your gazing upon your heart. Any feeling or any thought or any sensation. As you settle in a relaxed way, just as you gaze upon your heart from within, simply being open to whatever arises from it, know that Allah gazes upon your heart also from within. Connect or merge your gazing with God's gazing of your heart, upon your heart. Allahu nadiri. With this feeling sense, as you get used to it, we will begin invoking when I invoke. Take a moment to merge, to connect your gazing inwardly of your heart with God's gazing of your heart, as if God's gazing encompasses and was always present in your gazing upon your heart that you have awakened to. Bismillah. Allahu nadiri. Or as the hadith says, God does not look at your outer forms. Rather, He looks at your heart. He gazes upon your heart. Connect with that gazing of God, the divine gaze upon the heart from within. Feel the warmth of this gaze. For it is a loving gaze. Allahu nadiri. God gazes upon me, my heart. Invoke the Supreme Name, feeling God's awareness of you upon your heart with each and every invocation. Bismillah. Continue to sense that subtle resonance of the warmth and the love of the divine gaze upon your heart. Feel this resonance as the presence of the name Allah. For when you invoke the Supreme Name, it is as if the name is gazing upon your heart. The name is Allah's presence. For Allah is Allah. With each and every breath, as you feel the transparency of the presence of the divine gaze upon your heart, notice that you are awakening to a presence, an intimacy with Allah, with God and His name, that is inward and outward. In the transparency of the divine nearness, bear witness to God's witness as the name and its invocation. Allahu ma'i. God is intimately with me in His nearness, inwardly and outwardly. Feel free to either slightly open your eyes or keep them shut as you begin your invocation with the gate of Allahu ma'i. As you return to the breath, notice the quality of the silence behind the breath and pervading the breath and pervading the resonance of the presence of your heart. you are able to notice this subtle and serene silence, if you are able to notice this silence, you have awakened to another center of the heart, of your human beingness, your inmost secret with God, the sir. Bismillah. Notice that this was always present. Only you were absent from it. Now you are present with it in an awakened absence. This is God's secret with you. The latifa of silence as the sir. This is actually not yours. It is God's. Having tasted all these centers and discovered them and tasted them, let us give thanks with the Fatiha and come out from this exercise. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. To say Ameen, just simply stay here for a little bit and make a prayer if you'd like. Just to relax in this awareness, in this presence, in this silence, in this openness that you have discovered. Your witness with God, or rather God's witness with you, the ma'iyya of Allah. Allahu ma'i, God is intimately with me, through which I discover the transparency between my inward and my outward, the subtle transparency. And understand that this is always present. But because of our conditioning and our forgetfulness, our negligence, we are absent from this. I cycled through all the gates of contemplative meditation that I teach. The first being the Labbaik gate of meditation, the gate of being present, right? And so in this, what we did was we first sat and we gathered ourselves in a very relaxed way. And when we felt relaxed, then we stood up, and we were first sensing our breath while sitting. But then I invited everyone to sense the fullness of the breath in the body, in the motion of the body, so as to expand the sense of the fullness of being present in your body. This is what we did. So I used certain kind of variations of Qigong exercises, variations from various schools of approach to Qigong. I combined things. So then we then eventually sat down again. But before we did, although I did not give the instruction or the pointer then, I'll give the pointer now. As you stand, as you hit all those movements, the natural sensing of the center of the body, because to remember, I had mentioned that the title of this guided meditation exercise is discovering the centers of the human being. So the first center that we encountered, or you can say encountering, discovering or encountering the centers of the human being. The first center that we encounter is the bodily center. Your bodily center is actually not your chest when you're standing. It's actually your gut, your hip. This is your center. This is the center of the body as you stand, and you feel it the most then. So the pointer was to feel it in your belly and to sense there. then to sit. And as we sit, to bring awareness to awareness, which would then bring the sensing to the forehead, which is the Muraqaba Muhammadi. Then to, with each and every breath, to sink one's awareness very gently into the chest, which is the Muraqaba Musawi, and then into the belly again, which is the Muraqaba Maryami. Connecting this with the present moment, the Muhasaba, or a sense of God's presence, if you can. But we're still at the Labbaik gate at this point, so either or is fine. Then as we rested in the sensing of the belly, the sacred womb, the Muraqaba Maryami, as we brought our awareness to the belly, we then began to bring our awareness now to the center that we sense as now we're seated. And that center is no longer the belly, but rather naturally feels as if it's somewhere here. And not necessarily on the body, but here somewhere in a very subtle way, either more in or just combination of in and out. This then is the qalb, or the heart, the spiritual heart, the sensing of it, or the latifa. From here, then we began with the Allahu Hadiri, contemplation, or the gate of the Muraqaba of Allahu Hadiri. And with that sense of recognizing and feeling that God is present, we invoke the supreme name to further that, to amplify that, to strengthen that, initiatically for those who are initiated. As we went into that, we then went into silence after the invocation and began to notice. I brought your attention to bringing your awareness to the heart, as if you're gazing and you're looking upon your heart with your imaginal perception. As you did this, I brought awareness to the sense that how you look upon your heart, inwardly upon your heart somehow, as if you are, God does the same and is always doing the same. That God gazes upon your heart, according to the hadith. It is not your outer forms God looks at. God gazes upon your hearts. God looks at your hearts. And the invitation was to recognize this from within you, inwardly. Not that God is looking outwardly at your heart, but rather the same way you look at your heart, God is looking at your heart like that. But even prior to you, and you're looking. And this then awakens us to Allahu Nadiri. And with that insight of this, the Muraqaba gate and this pointer, then we invoke the supreme name. Feeling God's awareness of us as our heart. Allahu Nadiri. And we invoke the supreme name. Then we went back into silence, and I invited you to discover that silence as a transparency between and an intimacy of the silence between the inward and the outward, where we discover God's witness, Allahu Ma'i, the transparency and the intimacy of the nearness of the divine presence, inwardly and outwardly. And now there may be no distinction between the two, as there is a transparency between my inward and my outward. And we invoked the supreme name from there and entered that silence again afterwards, and we noticed the quality of that silence. So this is what we did. And then we rested here, and then we said the Fatiha. Right? So I hope that is helpful now, and you can maybe go back in your memory and try this once, inshallah. And you'll have a recording at some point, inshallah, soon. So this is what we did. Now, I know in the interest of time, we've hit the 54-minute mark. So I'll just say a few words, and the didactic will be for next time, or maybe like a Friday, so that we don't waste, or we don't spend a whole month waiting for the next, inshallah. And inshallah, I'm going to do a whole course on this. I'm going to expand this, into a course, because I've had this idea for over a year to speak about the dimensions of the human self. Kind of an experiential journey, but also with readings from various books. So the books I wanted to bring attention to, not really in any order, but I will tell you what is most important in this, is A Sacred Psychology which is a very nice book from a philosophically traditionalist perspective, which approaches tradition in contrast to modernity and the modernistic worldview, otherwise known as modernism, and its worldviews on what the nature of the self is and human psyche. Sacred psychology, global perspective, suggests strongly that there's a transcendent dimension to the psyche, which is the spirit. And it demonstrates it very beautifully by some of the sayings of the authorities of the traditional school, from René, the author, yes, and on to Christoph Schwann, to Titus Burkhardt, to many others who are the authorities. Someone who you may know, Samuel Bendick Saltilos, who's a very nice scholar, and himself a psychologist, actually. An excellent book, very, very dense, almost dry, with all due respect, but kind of excellent for references and for pointing out principally the difference between modern forms of psychology and more sacred forms that root the essence of the human soul in a transcendent yet immanent sacred, which is the spirit, the ruh. So these provide an intellectual foundation to what the heart is spiritually from the point of view of any traditional spirituality, and really the spirituality of all the world religions. They're all unanimous. If I were to use a thick word, there's a jamhur consensus, there's ijma, or this the jamhur opinion on this matter, that the spiritual heart is actually transcends the human psyche or the nafs. That's just one part. So this is that. Probably the most comprehensive book, the most important book, is the Tao of Islam, whose final chapter covers the heart. It's an excellent, and it's by the authors, Sachik Marata. She's the only author. She is married to William Chittick, and they often work together on their projects. But this is specifically, or more specifically, hers. But an excellent one. And chapter 10 gives, this is like an encyclopedia. You can see there's 4 columns of writing. This could be a 2,000-page work, but it's because of the columns. It is a 360-page work, right? So that's the density here, but it's written in clear, English, but with a lot of references to the Quran and Hadith, the Quran and the Sunnah. On every page, there's about 15 to 20 citations. I kid you not. So very academic, but written from a person, a soul who is a spiritually realized soul. Their books, I recommend each and every one of their books because of the light of realization and the perfection. I must say, or like the advanced acquisition, or the word is actualization of the intellect that is able to demonstrate it. Still in academic form, but behind that veil of academia is spiritual realization. So you cannot go wrong with another very beautiful soul is Dr. James Winston Morris, The Reflective Heart, Discovering Spiritual Intelligence in Ibn Arabi's Meccan Illuminations, the Futuhat al-Makkiyah. This can be a resource. It's very interesting. It speaks of the ear of the heart, listening eye of the heart, these sort of things, and brings in sayings from Ibn Arabi. Very interesting, but as a secondary source. But I like his emphasis on spiritual intelligence. And I was going to go into this, but we don't have the time. That in the Islamic worldview, the heart is not the emotional center. The way God expresses the spiritual heart is that it is a center of human consciousness and awareness and of remembrance. Dhikr. These are the 3 words in many ways that God uses in various verses. And the outer shell of this, when the Nafs has eclipsed the spiritual faculty, then we have emotions. And so then many human beings are run by their emotions, and that is their center, an emotional center. Now, the emotional center is necessary, But if the spiritual center subtly behind it and to beyond it is not discovered, then one has not really fully tasted or contacted and awakened the fullness of the human state, right? So this is very important. So I mentioned the Dalai Islam. I said a lot of things that you can find on. I think that you would agree. I praised the teachers that they have spiritual realization to behind their and their veil is their academic, but the perfection of that, like they speak in academically like no one else. So they're top tier in academia, but behind that veil is spiritual realization actually. So you can never go wrong with any of their books. And I wanted to mention this book here, A Dissolving into Being, The Wisdom of Sufi Philosophy by William Rory Dixon. It's one of the most clear and articulate expositions or just expressions of the wisdom of the Fusus al-Hikam in a very beautiful, accessible way. So anyone would benefit, but I wanted to bring attention specifically to the chapter on Shu'aib that speaks about the spiritual heart, and how he speaks of it is very well done. So if you were to read anything for the next talk, portions of that chapter and portions of the Dawah Islam chapter on the heart, these are the two that you really need. If you're more interested in a more intellectual perspective and to compare, those who may have interest or a practice of psychology, this is a very good book. So set a beautiful intellectual foundation and framework. And those who are more interested in some of Ibn Arabi's kind of views being interpreted in certain ways or expressed, James Winston Morris himself is a Sufi and a very humble man. God who through Dr. Nasser I had the privilege of meeting. And I want to say, I've said this story about him. I saw his worth when some of us were at the 700th anniversary of Jalaluddin Rumi in Istanbul. 800. Well, what was it, 800? 800. Back then it was 800? Well, I thought it was 100 years ago. Well, I was present 100 years ago. So I was present spiritually. I meant spiritually. So it was 800. I'm sorry. I'm 1 century behind. So we were in Istanbul, and we were invited because we were part of an entourage of Dr. Nasser, Sayyid Hussein Nasser, who also gave a keynote speech there, which was an excellent speech. As I remember, almost all of it, in my memory. It was just amazing. I was just fully present kind of for it. But I remember James Winston Morris's speech, and I don't remember his speech. But how he gave the speech and how everyone was there, and he was on a podium, and it was a poorly, arranged stage. And in the middle, when you walk down the stage, you all may remember this. There was an opening for like the audio visual cables. I mean, it was just really badly done. Well, the last thing a person who just gave a presentation is concerned about, because they're just kind of nervous, and there's people here they don't understand that hundreds of people, is this small thing that you're just going to hit and fall over. Unfortunately, that's what happened. Right, so he walked out, gave an amazing. So I do remember some parts of his speech. Gave an amazing speech on Rumi and Ibn Arabi and spirituality. Really well done. We'll probably end here. I'll just say one thing, that the center of the human being is the spiritual heart. So I'll end with 2 more words, and then we'll each, inshallah. Please forgive me for the time spent, and we'll just do a part 2. As I mentioned in a sermon once, that the spiritual heart is the intersection between the vertical transcendent dimension of the human soul, that is the spirit or the ruh, and the horizontal dimension of the human soul, that is the body-mind or the nafs, which includes outward intelligence and personal emotions, right? Personal cognitive faculties and all of that. And so many human beings spend most of their time on their horizontal consciousness, very few on the vertical consciousness. But the way to access the vertical consciousness, methodically and initiatically, is to come to the center, which is the heart. Where the heart, if you were to imagine a cross, the center is the heart, is the qalb, that is the intersection of the horizontal dimension with the vertical dimension of the human soul. And so on this verticality, there are multiple centers, right? You could say. And even if we then expand them, horizontally, we started with the physical center. We discovered this, the hips, right, and the pelvis. Then as we sat, we discovered a more physical center here that's connected to our sense of ourself here. When we sit like this, we know our center of our consciousness is really not here. It's actually here. And it's not here either. We feel, we begin as we sit more, we begin to feel it here. Right? And even if the mind is so activated that we relate kind of usually our awareness here, we will feel that our sense of beingness, our life is somehow here. Like imagine a visualization where you're walking in a park and someone keeps on calling your name from far away, right? And says, Babar, Babar, Babar. And it's trying to, this is Babar, one of my brother-in-law's names. And he then from far away says, he's not able to hear him, but he's the only person around. So then he goes, and he doesn't know this person. So he says, oh, you mean me? Where will he point? Is he going to say, oh, you mean me? Oh, do you mean me? Do you mean me? No. He's going to say, do you mean me? He's going to touch here because there's something intuitive about ourself here. Right? There's something there. And so then we begin to contact that sense of self, that sense of the center of our being and consciousness, or knowing here. This is then an entry point in many spiritualities to the spiritual heart. So we have Elisa's method of the alchemy, for example, that brings the name here, which we attempted. So I will just end with that. And then we went even further. We went even more subtle to the silence, behind that, but that encompasses that. And that is a more subtle center, which I named the secret, or the mystical secret. So we'll end there, inshallah. And inshallah, we'll eat and then we'll convene for the majlis. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم.
لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا